Sir Mel Stride, you were listening in intently there. The real world is what matters. And in the real world, governors like Steve, they're getting a paltry 350 quid cut. But in the headwind of a 20 grand hike in staff costs, in national insurance, in materials, in labour, it's chicken feed.
Yeah, but this encapsulates, Martin, what's going on up and down the country. This is not a unique situation. And it's because the ministers in this government do not live in the real world. None of them have any experience of business on their front bench, and they don't really get it. And you're looking there with Steve's case, £20,000 a year increase in costs, a few hundred quid he's getting because of the announcement today. It's only temporary. It's only focused on pubs. So what about the cafes, the other bars, restaurants, theatres, all of those kind of things that make up the high street as well? They're just being left to...
Right, so let me get this straight. Nigel Farage, the man who's built an entire political career on putting Britain first, the bloke who won't shut up about sovereignty, the walking embodiment of a pint-clutching patriot, is now being accused of choosing Donald Trump over Britain. I know, it sounds like the setup to a particularly spicy episode of The Thick of It, but this is actually happening. And the person throwing these accusations? Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride. Yes, that Mel Stride, the one most people couldn't pick out of a police lineup if their life depended on it. Welcome back to Brit article, where British politics is somehow more chaotic than a Greggs on Boxing Day. Now, before we dive into this absolute car crash of a trade row, do me a favour, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because if you think this story is wild, just wait until you see what else Westminster has cooking. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. So, here's the tea. Mel Stride is gearing up to give a speech at the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Conference, which, let's be honest, sounds like the sort of event where people drink lukewarm coffee and pretend to understand PowerPoint slides about GDP fluctuations. But Stride isn't just there to bore everyone into submission with economic jargon. Oh no, he's there to absolutely lay into Nigel Farage and Reform UK, accusing them of being Donald Trump's cheerleaders rather than standing up for British interests. And honestly, the audacity, the drama, the sheer pettiness of it all, this is what we live for. Now, Mel Stride is expected to say, and I'm paraphrasing here, but stick with me, that tariffs are bad, protectionism is backwards, and anyone championing Trump's trade policies is basically selling Britain down the river. He's going to stand there, probably with all the charisma of a damp flannel, and declare that tariffs are not the answer to our economic troubles, and that increasing trade barriers will leave everyone worse off. Which, fine, fair point, actually. I mean, basic economics tells us that trade wars generally end with everyone losing, except the lawyers who get paid to sort out the mess. But here's where it gets spicy. Stride is specifically calling out Reform UK, saying they want to be seen as champions of the White House rather than standing up for free and fair trade. Translation: Nigel, mate, stop simping for Trump. But hold on a second, because this is where things get properly messy. See, Reform UK clapped back faster than you can say breaking point poster. Their spokesman basically said, "Oi, Stride, get your facts straight." Farage has explicitly condemned Trump's tariff threats. Specifically, they pointed to Farage criticising Trump's bonkers tariff threats over Greenland. Yes, Greenland, because apparently that's a thing we need to worry about now in 2025. Reform's response was absolutely savage too. They called Stride minor party Mel, which, I'm sorry, is genuinely hilarious, and told him he should be apologising for the ballooning welfare budget that happened under his watch as a minister. And you know what? They've got a point. Nothing screams credibility quite like a politician who presided over financial chaos, lecturing others about economic responsibility. It's like Gordon Ramsay getting cooking tips from someone who burns toast. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say the orange man in the White House. Nigel Farage and Donald Trump go back to 2016, back when Trump was still a reality TV star who somehow convinced half of America he should run the country. Farage has maintained close ties with Trump ever since, and he's used that relationship to put pressure on the White House regarding various British interests. Most recently, he's been pushing Trump to reverse Sir Keir Starmer's Chagos deal, which is a whole other can of worms we don't have time to fully unpack today. But here's the thing, and this is what got the Tories all worked up. Farage's cosy relationship with Trump creates this perception that he's more loyal to Mar-a-Lago than to the United Kingdom. And perception, as we all know, is everything in politics. But wait, it gets even better. Despite Farage publicly criticising Trump's tariff regime last month, polling data suggests Reform UK needs to come down even harder on the president if they want to reassure key voters ahead of the next general election. So essentially, Farage is in this impossible position where he's trying to maintain his special relationship with Trump while also not looking like America's lapdog to British voters, like trying to attend 2 birthday parties at the same time. You're going to disappoint someone, and probably both. The polling indicates that Reform's core supporters want to see Farage stand up more forcefully against Trump's protectionist policies, which must be killing Farage internally. This is a man who genuinely seems to enjoy Trump's company, who's proudly posted photos of them together, who's defended the former and current president through scandal after scandal, and now his own voters are basically saying, yeah, we like the anti-establishment vibes, but can you maybe tell your American mate to pipe down about the tariffs?
Meanwhile, back at the conference that probably has the worst catering in London, Mel Stride is preparing to wax lyrical about the special relationship between the UK and the United States. He's expected to say that the ties between our two countries are deep and long-standing, and that we have stronger bonds than perhaps almost any other two nations in the world, culturally, diplomatically, and of course economically. Which is all very nice and diplomatic and exactly the sort of thing you say when you're trying to criticize American policy without actually offending Americans. It's political tap dancing at its finest. Stride will defend free trade with the passion of someone who's just discovered what free trade actually means, calling it the foundation of how a small set of islands off the north coast of Europe became the world's first industrialized economy. He's going full patriotic history lesson mode, which is always amusing from someone whose party spent the last 14 years in government making questionable economic decisions. But then Stride's going to pivot and make a direct plea to Trump himself. He'll argue that tariffs aren't just bad policy, they're actively harmful. Trade is about mutual benefit, he's expected to say. It is not a zero-sum game. And he's absolutely right about that. Trade isn't like a football match where one side wins and the other loses. It's more like, I don't know, a potluck dinner where everyone brings something different and everyone goes home happy and slightly overweight. When you start slapping tariffs on everything, you're basically the person who shows up to the potluck, eats everyone else's food, and refuses to share your own casserole. Nobody wins. Prices go up, supply chains get disrupted, consumers get angry. It's economic self-harm dressed up as nationalism. So Stride's concern about Trump's approach is genuinely valid. The problem is, it's coming from a shadow chancellor of a party that's currently polling in 3rd place and has all the political momentum of a broken shopping trolley. Now here's what's absolutely fascinating about all this. Stride's attack on Reform UK is actually quite measured compared to some of his Tory colleagues, and by measured I mean he's not comparing them to Nazis, which apparently is the bar we're working with now. Last year, Tory party chairman Kevin Hollinrake appeared to compare a special edition Reform UK football shirt to the Nazi Party's Golden Party badge. Yes, really, that happened. And then last month, Shadow Foreign Secretary Dame Priti Patel went on GB News and described Reform UK as National Socialists, which caused an absolute meltdown. So in comparison, Stride calling Reform for being too cozy with Trump is practically a love letter. But it does raise the question, what exactly is the Conservative strategy here? Are they trying to position themselves as the sensible, economically literate alternative to Reform's populism, or are they just throwing whatever insults stick and hoping something resonates with voters who've largely forgotten they exist? Let's zoom out for a second and look at what this row actually tells us about the state of British politics right now. You've got Labour in government, presumably doing something. The Tories are in opposition, desperately trying to remain relevant while also having a bit of an identity crisis about whether they're the party of the free market or the party of whatever polls well that week. And then you've got Reform UK, positioned as the insurgent outsider party, despite their leader being a career politician who's been on our TV
screens for approximately 30 decades. Everyone's trying to carve out their own space on trade policy, on the special relationship, on how to deal with Trump. And the reality is, nobody really knows what the right answer is. Trump is unpredictable. His policies change based on whatever he tweeted last or whatever the last person he spoke to told him. Trying to formulate a coherent British response to Trump's trade agenda is like trying to nail jelly to a wall. Theoretically possible, but ultimately futile and very messy. And this brings us back to Farage's fundamental dilemma. His entire political brand is built on being the outsider, the disruptor, the man who tells it like it is and doesn't care whose feelings he hurts. But his friendship with Trump complicates that narrative. When you're that closely associated with a sitting US president, you're not really an outsider anymore, are you? You're part of the establishment, just a different establishment. And when that president starts implementing policies that could hurt British businesses and consumers, you're in a proper bind. Do you stay loyal to your mate and risk looking like you don't care about British interests, or do you criticize him and potentially damage a relationship that's been incredibly valuable for your political career? It's a lose-lose situation, and honestly, I'm kind of here for it. Watching Farage try to navigate this tightrope while Stride takes pot shots from the sidelines is genuinely entertaining. But beyond the political theatre, there's a real economic question here that actually matters. If Trump goes ahead with significant tariffs on British goods, that's going to hurt. It'll hurt British manufacturers, British exporters, British jobs. The special relationship is lovely and all, but it doesn't mean much if it's not backed up by sensible trade policy. And this is where Stride actually has a legitimate point, even if it's being delivered by someone with the public profile of a regional manager at a mid-tier accounting firm. Free trade has historically been good for Britain. It's made us wealthier, more innovative, more connected to the global economy. Protectionism might sound good in a campaign speech, might make people feel like they're sticking it to foreign competitors, but the reality is far messier. Tariffs are taxes on consumers. They make things more expensive. They invite retaliation. They create economic inefficiency. So yes, Stride is right to be concerned. The question is whether anyone's actually listening to him. And that's really what this entire row boils down to, isn't it? Political theatre. Stride needs to differentiate the Tories from reform, so he's picking a fight on trade policy and Trump. Farage needs to maintain his relationship with Trump while not alienating British voters, so he's doing this delicate dance of conditional criticism. Reform spokesman needs to defend Farage, so he's attacking Stride's record. Everyone's positioning, everyone's spinning, everyone's trying to claim the moral and economic high ground. Meanwhile, actual British businesses are sitting there wondering what the hell is going to happen with trade policy, and whether they should be diversifying their export markets or just accepting that everything is going to be chaos for the foreseeable future. So there you have it. Nigel Farage accused of putting Trump before Britain by a shadow chancellor most people couldn't identify in a photo. Reform hitting back by calling out Tory economic failures. Everyone arguing about tariffs while pretending they have any influence over what Trump actually does. It's British politics at its absolute finest. Lots of noise, lots of posturing, and very little actual resolution. Classic Westminster. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers!